Welcome to the next episode of the Teacher Zone with Chris and Tyler. As you can see, we are in the same room. This is not CGI. What's up, dude? So I'm in town. So I'm right in Chris's office right now. So we're going to just do this podcast, episode 2 of The Hero's Journey. Right, Chris?
Yes.
How are you today, buddy?
I'm awesome. You know, Tyler and
I can tell you're right here.
Right here.
Yeah, I don't even have to ask him.
Well, and Tyler and I have had a bunch of meetings today, and it's really funny because we've been trying to incorporate a little bit of what we're discussing. So over the last number of weeks, if you haven't listened to the other podcasts, please go back to the Teacher Zone with Chris and Tyler. Mm-hmm. We've got episodes on transforming your business. We've got episodes on, including our transformation formula. Also transactional versus transformational leadership, right?
It's all connected. That's correct.
And what are the elements of a good leader? For all of you that are listening, your leaders in your business, what are the elements of a leader, essentially?
Well, especially as founders, we have to create our standards and create this business, right? We got to stand for something. So standards and a mission we have to be decisive about it and have clarity about that, right? So there's that mission. So we're in charge of the mission, the resources / money, finances, and the people.
The people.
And we're talking about the people today and what they have access to or what they don't have access to.
Well, and mission is the story that you have created that you're conveying to everybody, but there's vision. You always hear people when they talk about mission statements, you hear mission, vision, values. It's not imperative that you create all that, by the way. Totally up to you. We're all making this up anyways. You can create whatever it is that inspires you and your team to get up every day and do what you do. So you can call it your vision statement, your mission statement.
We call it our why, like Simon Sinek's TED Talk that you all should watch. That is a really basic, because we all understand why. And then everybody's concentrating on how and what. Right. How and what. Right. And then the why is like, oh, I get it. So you can call it your why if you want.
Yeah. Well, let's real quick tell the difference. So we all of you listening have different teaching businesses. We happen to teach kids music. Mm-hmm. So what would be 2 different ways to describe, one just describing our what to a family, and one describing it in a why methodology. A what would be more cold, a why would be more heartfelt.
Right.
So explain a piano lesson in a what and explain it in a why.
A what? You're going to learn basic rhythm theory. You're going to learn dexterity and posture. You're going to learn some basic theory, music theory as well, so you know where the notes are, why they are. You're going to learn to read the notes, and then at some point you'll glue it together and you will play a song.
Okay, so that's a what. Pretty cerebral.
Kind of a how too. It's kind of the what, how.
What and a how.
Yeah.
So and then explain it. I'm a mom and I'm like, so what do you do? What do you do there for piano lessons? Now do it in a why format.
Okay, so at Los Rios Rock School, when piano happens, not only we concentrate on that linear academic form of learning and grinding through what makes a piano work, but after we're done solving the puzzles in the same lesson, we also speak the language of music with another teacher on a different instrument. So they're trying out what they just learned and connecting with another human being and creating music together. And then it goes on from there, groups of kids connecting, speaking music together, and then shows where they're executing shows of their choice, songs of their choice through teamwork and communication. And then they speak that to the world.
So do you see the difference with what he just did there? The first one was a lot more like...
It was still kind of a what, though, a little bit. The why is we're literally adding confidence to your kid's life to make them better people in the future.
And giving them greater connection. Because you said connection over and over, and that's the big one. So we're giving you confidence and connection. So
be careful. Don't just gussy up your how and what like I did. You got to be careful.
Right.
Sure, I can make it sound great. It's what I do.
But now, if you said your why and simplified it to empowerment, self-esteem, and connection, right? As a mom, I'd be like, I'm sold.
Right.
I don't even care about the piano anymore. Really?
What were we talking about?
Yeah, you're gonna give my kid more connection with other humans, which in today's day and age we know is really difficult, and you're going to give them more self-esteem. I'm in.
Yep.
I don't even care what you teach. So anyways, something to think about, guys. Bottom line is that lately we've been really trying to explore that to be a big, great business, you have to really know who you are, and then you have to trust those around you to be the heroes. So we're talking about this book. So for those of you who don't know, it's a great book you can get. It's a brand new one called Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. He's the story brand guy. We'll follow up at the end, but just so you know, we're going to actually have some workshops coming up on writing your story.
2 workshops. So there'll be 2 episodes after this with 2 special guests and a workshop where we're going to workshop with our guest together. And then you can workshop with the same questions at home while you're listening. By the way, if you're listening to this now and you didn't miss the previous episode of The Hero's Journey, go back and check it out because you had some homework. If you remember, it was we separated the types of characters, the avatars that are in a story. So just slight review: victim, villain, hero, or guide. Okay. And then we asked you guys to go find out, take an inventory of your week and say which one of those were you and when. Just with yourselves, find 3 to 5 incidents or interactions where you were those things and label them and see how you did. Then the next thing was, we wanted to ask you guys if you even had a guide. So that's very important. We're about to get into what guides do and how they give access to their people so that they can be empowered. But you don't have a guide yet, so we need to touch on it quick. Chris, can you go back in time? We're going to get in the time machine. We're actually already in it. It's this office is a time machine. That's why we couldn't do this episode unless I came out here. So we're going to go in the time machine. Okay. Chris is going to take us back to 1988, Sunset Strip, Hollywood, and tell us how your analogy of having a guide versus not having a guide may have affected some things in life.
Well, I was thinking about it. So I've owned 7 businesses. A lot of you own a lot of businesses, or this is your first. And as business owners, we're always learning. And you talk about a why. One of the big things that is Tyler and I's why, and why we have this podcast and Teacher Zone and all that, is because we believe you guys are heroes. And we believe that, to be an entrepreneur takes so much guts. It takes so much stamina. It takes so much waking up and doing a lot of what you didn't want to do just to make what you do happen. So we believe in that. But I was analyzing it in the context of the hero's journey that we're talking about. And I was thinking, gosh, what are my failures? And one of my failures was a band I was in. We moved to Hollywood. We were a pretty good band. We worked our butts off, but we didn't make it. As back in the day, they called it making it. And really what making it meant is similar to just having a business, right? It meant being able to eat off your music. And we never really got to that level. And I was trying to analyze why, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my gosh, we didn't have a guide. We were 4 heroes that were literally trying to make it up, and we never asked for help.
And people were talking at you about it.
Yeah.
They were talking at these kids. You were 18
and
19.
Yeah.
So these kids, we're like 230 years old right now. That's why we're your guides. You got to be 200 years old or more to be a guide. I'm just kidding. But people will talk at you, even maybe unsolicited advice that you're categorizing into maybe trying to do, and it isn't the right advice because they aren't a guide.
Yeah. So a guide, the precursor for a guide is they had to have done it. We actually had something in EO. I was on an entrepreneurs organization for almost 10 years, and we have a thing in EO where you're not allowed to give each other advice because it's considered condescending. And since we're all leaders, and you guys are leaders too, we're all leaders. It's silly for Tyler and I to be here and be like, well, you should do this. That we are. Please, I hope you don't think we're ever saying that.
We try not to use you statements like that at all,
right,
in our lives.
Yeah,
no one wants to hear you.
So a healthy technique that we try and utilize as much as we can, and they use it in EO, they call it Gestalt, but it basically means that you're only telling, if you're ever going to tell somebody something, you're only telling it with basically your experience, and that's it. So if you don't have experience with that, then you're helping them find someone that does. That's the bottom line. So the context here for the hero's journey today is we talked about you guys are heroes and that you all need guides too. Right. So please keep looking for other guides in your life.
There's another thing about guides that I learned from Todd Duncan. and Dan Martell, they have to intrinsically and authentically want you to succeed because they already have and they know what it feels like. They know the joys, the hardships, the freedom, the time bought with money. Maybe money buys time, right? Well, it depends on what your currency is. And they are like, you know what? And a couple things need to happen. They need to care about what you're doing. They need to like you. And so if you can check those two off and they're already successful, you're almost there. Like if they think what you're doing is cool and they like you and they have a couple mil in the bank or something like that, that might be a good sign to start.
Well, and Tyler and I, we do attempt to be good mentors and guides on this podcast, for instance. But again, we're learning too. We're all learning. Mm-hmm. And every guide's transitioning between the four roles like we talked about. There's days when we're having a bad day, as I'm sure that you did on your own homework, where you're feeling like a victim or you're feeling like a villain because you're grumpy. Or is it you being the hero that day? That's okay. But also remember, if you're owning a business, you have to be a guide as well. And a guide can only guide on things that they've already been through. So that means, let's just take it in context. Back in the day, Tyler brought up my youth. Back in the day, had my first band business, had we actually had people that had been through it before give us advice, I'll bet you we would have had a lot greater success than we did. And so I think the same thing goes for you guys. So one of the things that I would recommend is if you don't have a mentor, find someone in your town. And you can do that, through the Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of ways you can meet people, and find someone that's near and dear. It could be a family member, just someone that's been through it
and has built a business, and you probably already know someone in your mind. Maybe you're close to them already, maybe not. Those types of people have been through it, and if they're a giving soul, they won't just be like, "Hey, I don't have time for that." And if they do, they were honest. That's cool too.
Well, yeah. So here's what's so cool. So I used to have a group of fellow software owners. There was 9 of us that would travel around the world, and somewhere in the world, we would call ahead, and we were in Southeast Asia, Australia, all throughout the U.S., Canada, and wherever we were, we would call ahead, and we would call the business leaders that were in software, and we would ask for a meeting, and we'd say, "Hey, there's 9 young budding entrepreneur software owners coming into your town. Can we get 10 minutes? I couldn't believe how many awesome people said yes. And so one of the guys, you just brought that memory back. His name's Aaron Levy, and he has a company called Box.com. And right now they were just voted last year, I think, one, if not the best place to work in America. But what was funny, we go into his new skyscraper because they went public and they have a huge skyscraper now and stuff. But he's still a relatively young entrepreneur. And he walks in the room and shuts the door, and he goes, "This is so effing awesome. This is so effing awesome." And we go, "Hi, nice to meet you." And he's like, "I just think that you guys coming to me is the coolest thing ever." And we're like, "Really?
Is that what you expected to happen?"
Never. I expected this prima donna. My company went public. I've got a skyscraper guy to walk in.
Yep.
And he was this humble, awesome guy that was like, he goes, "I am such an idiot. I can't believe I didn't have the guts to do what you guys are doing right now." He goes, "This is so cool." He goes, "What do you want to know?" And then he just hung with us for like 3 hours.
And then they proceeded to go back in time. I've heard the story and say, "What would you have done different? What was your biggest takeaway? And oh my gosh." And he just said things that they also didn't expect to hear, to be honest.
Right.
And we're not going to get into those details, but the humility, how they approached him. Now, they had a little bit of strength in numbers. They had 9 software owners, and that automatically makes an entrepreneur go, "Well, that's interesting."
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs like interesting things. Does your phone ever ring and you're like, not interesting?
But you just reminded me, I had a mastermind group in Denver years ago. So, and you've done them too. You can create a mastermind group in your town of other business owners, and y'all meet once a month or once every 3 months, whenever you want, and you guys can be your own collective mastermind group.
It's AA for entrepreneurs in your area, because guess what? we need each other as much as alcoholics need each other to stay sober.
100%.
Because it's intense.
Mhm.
Life is intense, and life is based off of fear. Like the victim and villain, that is fear based.
Mm-hmm.
It's only fear. You cannot tell me it's related to anything else like sadness or anything like that. It's fear.
I woke up this morning, as an example. I have to do this every day because I'm a really optimistic person. But Tyler and I take on a lot in our lives, and then we have families. So I do wake up with a second in the morning, not every day, but some days of like, oh, right. And I woke up this morning and I went, oh, it's Monday. And then I went, it's Monday. And I immediately changed my posture. I changed my energy. And I'm like, I'm going to make this the best day I've had in a while. And then I immediately got into hero mode. I didn't let myself go there. So just if you see yourself feeling that way, just know that you have the power to change back into her hero mode, right, and or guide, depending on who you are. So
you can't be a guide and be in fear. You can be a guide and talk about fear and how you overcame fear, because guess what? That meant you were a hero at one time.
You can't be a guy without having gone through the valley of death. No, without having gone through a hard moment, because that's what makes Yoda, right? That's what makes
Yoda had been fighting the good fight for 923 years.
Right. He's like, young Luke, I'm done. You do it.
So.
Well, or if you take like Karate Kid's another great, you've got lots of, we were watching Cobra Kai the other day, the new season, and all the victims.
We finished it. It was amazing.
Okay. Well, they go victim, villain, hero, victim, villain, hero, guide. They go back and forth if you watch that. And the original movie did a lot as well. And Mr. Miyagi obviously is the guide, right?
Right.
And obviously Daniel was the victim. The villains were coming after him. He emerged into a hero that overcame challenges.
Right.
And Mr. Miyagi helped guide him through those challenges.
Right.
Okay. And then they keep repeating that in different ways. And the new one
now, Johnny is a victim, villain, guide, and he wants to do this thing, and so it goes back and forth, and then everybody, all of a sudden, they start to work together and grow, and everyone's becoming heroes. And when you are humble enough to see things that you didn't see before that you need to fix or work on, and you humble yourself and become a human, not better or worse, then you're a hero in a different way. And that's when you have enlightening thoughts and experiences that you can relate in layman's terms to people, because it just makes sense to you. You're flying 10,000 feet up now. They're trying to fly 1,000, and it's harder to say.
So Tyler and I, since we're here together, we can literally talk for the next 3 hours. So
yeah, we got
over the next 10 minutes or so. Let's talk about what we talked about with regard to their staff, and then the students.
Yes,
and then also, let's impart that one last element, that Gestalt I talked about. I'd like everyone that's listening to try this. If you have kids, when you're with your kids, or if your students, or whoever you're with, or your staff, try to not give advice. Try to only speak in context of your experience. If someone's having a challenge, right, you can ask a lot of really great questions, about what is the biggest part of that challenge for you.
Your kid isn't practicing or showing up enough. When I was teaching, I had this kid named Jeremy, who wasn't showing up, and I couldn't figure out why yet. And so at this point, we had to handle it ourselves. But right now, you have a team to back you up so you can get advice.
Do you see how much more we all learn from story? It's innate in humans. We learn from story. That's why we want to workshop this the next two. We learn from story. We don't learn from being told what to do. So we're not asking you as a guide to go.
That's transactional.
Yeah, and we're not saying go tell your teachers what to do. What we're saying is to be a true guide to your teachers. Tell them from your experience and help them find their own guides, which may or may not be you, by the way.
Right.
Like, you need to give them permission.
Right.
Permission's a big one, isn't it?
Right. And so when we are in charge of the people as founders, the money and finances, resources, and the mission, we have to let them know that we'll take care of that stuff. So if you need something, you have permission to be the hero now and do whatever it is you need to be and think up. And then the transactional leadership, go back and listen to that one. We don't want that, because now if we go that route, they're not the hero. They're just waiting for me to say the next thing.
Yeah, we all want to get out of the habit. In transformational leadership episode, we explore the concept of transformational leadership means you are not giving orders. You're letting your team, teachers are leaders. They're their own heroes, and they're their own guides to the student who are heroes, right?
Right.
And so they need to feel empowered to be able to get the tools they need. Maybe they need an extra class for something. Maybe there's gear or equipment they need. Maybe they just need advice from someone that's not you.
Maybe they're castling and failing and afraid and reluctant now to not ask questions. So like there's a lot of stuff there that they need permission to do. And it can be based on your standards. You created the standards. So it's not like you're just giving them the ability to lead how they want, but you're trusting them to be exemplary teachers. So they need to be them.
So there's several things we've done over the years, and we don't do enough of it, to be honest, but that we try and make our teachers feel like heroes so they can be better guides. So how can you in your business do that? Some of the things we've done, we put the teacher bios outside of their offices. So when you walk by, you can actually see all the cool things they've done in life. Another thing that we did is we did, and we need to get back to that, teacher showcase, teacher spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where we would talk about what gigs they had coming up or whatever they're working on or something special about them. Helping teachers to embrace their hero's journey allows them to be better guides.
They don't have permission to do that themselves. They assume that, oh, I can't, what can I say? Am I sounding too pretentious if I say the things that I'm proud of? See what I mean? So we enabled them to know, no, it's okay. Write it down. We're going to frame it. So we enabled them to be this hero. And now they're like, okay, that's neat. And now the whole alumni knows not just their teachers' accolades, that these teachers are working elbow to elbow with unbelievable people.
When you talk about storytelling, what our school director, Phil, he's hilarious. He did his in the Fresh Prince. He actually did his bio. He did the intro to the Fresh Prince as his bio. It's so great. And so all the kids and everyone have gotten a great laugh out of trying to sing his bio.
Here, I have it right here. Here, I'll do a little piece of it. In Southern California, born and raised, in the studio is where I spent most of my days, rocking out, practicing, tracking all cool, and shredding some guitar when I wasn't in school. When a couple of friends who were all really good started making music in my neighborhood, joined a couple of little bands, and my parents told me, "You're moving to LA and study music at USC." I studied recording and got my degree. I got a job at a studio that was called Harmony, worked on a bunch of big records and won some awards, but I thought this was a fun job, but now I'm really bored. I rode my motorcycle for a month across the US, and I thought about my life and what I wanted to do next. Realized I want to teach and move back to my home. So now I'm at Los Rios yelling at kids about metronomes.
So he wanted to tell his hero's journey. And what's so great, guys, is he works with teens.
Guys, it's written on a whiteboard outside of his office.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And so just know that when you empower your teachers to embrace their inner hero and you let them know that they are both a hero, and because they've been a hero, they're also a really amazing mentoring guide, then it really, I think it just gives them permission, right? It gives them permission to also seek other guides that they need and not feel stuck. So I think that's the main thing we wanted to impart today, is that you got to give your teachers permission to celebrate their hero-ness.
And understand that automatically makes them a fully bona fide guide to their students and sometimes the parents. The parents are waiting for that expertise, whether it's jujitsu, yoga, or whatever. Like, hey, my back hurts. Am I doing the stretch right? Like, people are waiting to be told the right information so that their life is better. And our heroes are the ones doing it.
Well, and the thing about it too, guys, is that if you don't articulate it and you don't let the teachers to feel celebrated, they're going to unknowingly, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but for some teachers, especially if they're really young, they might not know how to celebrate their students as heroes, right? They're kind of like, do you know who I am? And that's a wrong attitude. That's a victim. They're coming from victim or villain to their students. So it's very important that you guys help them to understand, listen, you are a hero as an example to the student, but your role with them is guide.
Right. And they are the heroes. So
the student's the hero.
It trickles down. So we started with founders. We gave permission. They are now heroes because we went through it, and we're giving them, we have the power, and they need to be knighted, whatever process you need to make it real. And then in turn, that trust starts to build with their students who might not think they're heroes yet.
Yeah, it's their job to let them know you're a hero. And then one of the things we do at our school that I know a lot of you might do too, is that once you've leveled up and you've actually become from a student to almost a peer, so some of our older teens, we then have them be a guide to our youth.
Right.
And we let them know you're becoming such a hero. We've had some kids have some pretty insane accolades for kids. And rather than let their ego get out of control, we immediately get into, awesome job, hero, time to be a guide. Right. Because nothing will humble you more than having to then suddenly work with a 7-year-old that doesn't care.
And not just humble you. If you're ever feeling like a victim and a villain, this is just basic life 101. Go help someone.
Yeah, so
you can't be a victim while you're helping someone. It doesn't go together.
And by the way, I'm going to just say it. If you've got staff members and you work with them lovingly and they cannot get out of victim mode or they cannot get out of villain mode, fire them.
Yep. 1 foot in, 1 foot out, just flighty. They don't believe what you believe. The standards.
We've done it, and we regret every minute of it. We no longer. Tyler and I made a mission to one another to no longer allow cancerous individuals that are victims and villains to be a part of our organization.
And it doesn't mean that their avatar means they're a villain in life in general.
They might be a good person.
They don't fit.
But they're bringing that to your organization. They're bringing poor me, or they're not taking enough action. Everything's someone else's fault. Or
the bottom line, they're throwing a wrench in the gears and slowing the whole machine down, and it's overheating. That's what's happening.
Right.
It's an ecosystem that has ick in it, like when you put a bad fish.
So the definition again that he put in the book is a victim is someone that's stuck. That's someone that just doesn't look for a way out. They just feel stuck. A villain is someone that pushes other people down to get what they want. A hero, on the other hand, is someone that's willing to do whatever it takes. In other words, overcome whatever challenges to achieve whatever goal or mission that they're on. So remember, the hero's story, that's why we want to workshop this, keeps getting rewritten. You need to keep every year with your staff all the time, just keep reminding them of your vision, keep helping everybody understand what y'all are standing for at your organization, and then helping them if they're feeling a little bit stuck, helping them get back into hero mode. Let's rewrite that story. Let's be willing to overcome challenges so you can be a wonderful guide to the heroes that we truly serve, which is your customers, your students.
Yep. So next week, get ready for workshop time. You're going to get 2 perspectives. Next week will be first, I believe, we don't know the order. We'll see how we might do 2 next week, and we don't know who's going to be first. But you guys are going to be meeting some amazing people. Brad Alexander from Clarity Messaging. He's our story brand guy that helps us with everything we do to get our messaging across and be clear. And then also John from Michigan School of Rock, who used to be in journalism and had workshops about pods and leadership that kind of apply to what we're talking about.
Yeah, John is a great guy and just a great entrepreneur and business leader and musician. He also used to be a writer. And so John has some really great insight to help us write our story that have an intro, a middle, and an end. And so we're going to have him on to sort of help us all, just make sure that we're really, guys, we're writing it every day. You're making it up anyway, right? Like you may not think you are, but you are. So you might as well take hold of your story, help your staff take hold of theirs, and really make sure that you're empowering the heroes that are your students.
Yep. The fabric of reality is easier to manipulate than you think. Don't assume. So we're going to workshop some stuff next week so you can kind of see what that is. Maybe you'll break free some stuff. Maybe you'll take away a couple nuggets, but I'm looking forward to it. I need a workshop. We got a big workshop coming up in February with our coaches too. So we have a big old one, and then we'll do these two with you guys.
A 3-day coaching workshop we're going through. Yep.
So
all right. Well, we can high five because we're in person.
Yes. Remember, if you're not growing, you're dying, you guys. And remember, this podcast is brought to you by teacherzone.com. You can find our webinar on there, our ebook. And also, if you are getting anything good out of these talks, send them to a friend. Send them now. And it helps everyone. So we appreciate your viewership and listenership, and we'll see you on the flip side. Take care, everybody.